What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of the Third Intermission Podcast. This is your boy Dave signing on this very, very frigid, unterrible evening. Of course, you can catch us on the socials at Toronto Third, both on Twitter and on Instagram and on Blue Sky. And you can catch us wherever you get your podcasts from. That's iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Spotify, and our friends over at Podbean. Got the usual suspects in tonight. The right hand of the king himself, aka the Fedora Man, aka Mr. Steal Your Girl, Avery McDougal out in Edmonton right now. Avery, what's going on?
Yo, damn, unfortunately, it's minus 16 right now in Edmonton. The snow is flying, and it is a rougher look right now in the weather than Mike Tyson's butt cheeks during that
Jesus
fight.
Christ. Jesus Christ, man. Let's not go
It's
to that fight
rough.
again, man. That's just terrible. That was terrible. Yo, Netflix really needs to catch a Nefaz on that one, man. Also, whoever caught Mike Tyson's bare ass cheeks, like that cameraman really needs to be fired. I'm sorry. Like that's one image I did not need to see. All right, and coming to you from the T dot streets himself, aka the Hood General. We got Troy in the building. Troy, how you ducking them shots lately?
Oh, fucking like crazy. I feel like I'm ducking and weaving all the time. I gotta keep my head on a swivel. You just don't know where they're coming from. I just go to work and do my shopping and glad me out, stay inside. I'm safer that way.
Well, that's all we can do at this point. All right, so we've got ourselves a fun episode for you this evening. First things first, we're going to talk about how the Leaf Dem are currently leading the Atlantic Division. Uh, Currently, they're playing, well, at the time of this recording right now, they're playing Utah, who had to walk from their team bus in a Toronto street just to walk to the arena, which is kind of a bad look on the city of Toronto. We're going to talk about that as well. We're also going to talk about a surprise twist in the PWHL Takeover Tour. Guess which Canadian city has actually gotten themselves involved? And we did talk about this a couple episodes ago. You're going to be shocked at which particular Canadian city got themselves involved. Uh, that we're also going to look at the new hire in St. Louis. Looks like the carousel of coaches in Boston is currently rotating to other different teams within the league, and it's just outright batshit insane. Uh, we'll take a look at that. We're also going to take a look at, or we're also going to dive into Obi Watch as he's currently out with an injury. Uh, and finally, we're going to talk about having a second Nylander on the roster. Of course, Williams' brother Alex has been called up, and we're going to dive into that as well. So much more fun, obviously, on a great Sunday evening. So let's get this going. First things first, Leafs are currently leading the Atlantic as of this particular moment. Avery, Troy, obviously, it's extremely early, but Leaf fans are salivating at the fact that just like, you know what, like the Leafs can potentially actually win the division for the first time in, say, I don't know, 20 years. The last time the Leafs even won a division was, of course, 19, or sorry, let me rephrase that, 2002, 2001, 2002, when the Leafs had actually made it to the third seed when there was proper seeding in the NHL, not this whole fucking wild card bullshit. And the Leafs had actually won their first division titles like in franchise history, which was absolutely insane. That said, obviously it's not something to be overtly excited about, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, guys?
It seems like the balance of power has finally shifted in the Atlantic Division. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like the American League East in baseball, where it's like the same seeding of teams every year, and then finally there's a breakthrough where all the teams that are supposed to be at the top are on the bottom. Because I mean, like when you look at it, when was the last time you saw the Bruins at the bottom of the Atlantic? Like I don't know. Couldn't tell you. You know, it is a nice surprise to see the Leafs finally hold the division lead. As for how long is entirely up to them, to be completely honest.
Mhm.
I obviously the at this point you want to see them hold on to it for the rest of the season. Um, if it's anything like the years previous, we'll know by like the end of December basically who's where. Because like at this point, last season and the year before, like nothing changed in terms of who was first, second, and third. So like you basically already knew who was locked in where. So I
Mhm.
mean, like as long as the Leafs can hold this spot until at least the new year, I think we're good. Um, yeah, I mean, we're even doing this with like what we're at like 8 bodies now, or something like that, 7, 8 bodies. So that's
Mhm.
impressive in and of itself. So let's keep our fingers crossed, knocking some wood, and see where this takes us.
Avery, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the Leafs are finding a way to get points and get victories again with no Austin Matthews, who's away in Germany. So that's a great sign for the Leafs that they can find ways to get wins. You're seeing again William Nylander step up. You're seeing Mitch Marner step up, and doing this without Austin Matthews, getting it done without him is a great sign for this franchise. I think.
Hmm. Ideally speaking, um, you guys are right. Toronto is finding ways to win without Austin Matthews, and it's like you're depending on three of your core four. With Mitch Marner finally starting to heat up, John Tavares looking like John Tavares of old, and William Nylander obviously being very consistent with not only his playmaking but also his scoring. And it's just like, you know what? Toronto has found a way to look at the whole situation and be like, okay, who's the next man up in the situation while Austin's gone? And then, of course, you have injury after injury after injury. Of course, one of Toronto's best and youngest stars, Matthew Knies, obviously going down, um, gives an opportunity for, say, someone like an Alex Nylander to actually jump up into the roster. Or Fraser Minton, like basically getting some playing time while he's still technically playing for juniors. Um, Obviously, the sky's the limit for this team. Connor Dewar getting minutes. Nick Robertson getting minutes. Obviously, with Ryan Reeves down due to suspension until next week at least. Like there's various opportunities for the Leafs to finally get themselves into a decent position so that they can actually be able to not only start winning games but winning gritty games and winning like actual winnable games, not like say previous seasons where it's like okay it's a winnable game and then they'll blow like a fucking 3 goal lead right after, which is an absolute travesty for Leaf fans. As we all know, like Leafs have blown 3 goal leads at one point or another. But then again, who hasn't, right? So again, we're only one point up on Florida as of this recording, but you never know what could happen. I mean, Florida, considering that Utah and Toronto is currently the only game that's being played, at least at least on this particular Sunday, like not much more can be said right now. If Florida can actually get themselves to leapfrog, say during the course of the week, then they can leapfrog during the course of the week. But until that time comes, like Toronto currently leads the Atlantic, so fuck every other team. But in any sense, I'm just very happy to see this right now. If Toronto can hold serve when it comes to holding on to the division lead and go into December basically looking like a very well oiled machine. I feel like they'll be in a good spot. All right, switching gears here. We're going. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I had a random question. I
Mhm.
think I know both of your answers. Um, Given the success of the Leafs right now, we know we're getting production from top to bottom. Um, which one is your number one goalie? Is it Stolars or is it Wall?
Ooh, that's a solid question. Avery, I'm going to let you go first on this one.
Right now, I still think it's Anthony Stolars. He's been able to keep them in games, made the key saves after Wall's injuries. So I'm going to stick with Anthony Stolars. Then that is his to me in my mind until he shows me it isn't.
For me, I'm going to respectfully disagree here because it's like you have your one and then your 1A in Wall and Stellars. I still believe that like this is Joseph Wall's like literally job to lose. Ideally speaking, he's been your consistent guy day in and day out over the last few weeks. And of course, Stellaris does need a little bit of rest here and there. And we can't really fully depend on Stellaris on say some given nights, especially against high end opponents like New York or Los Angeles or even say even a Florida at this point. Just for example. But again, like Joseph Wall has been very consistent. Like, sure, there are times where he does let in a couple soft goals, but you know what? He's been clearly standing on his head. He's been playing very well, and ideally speaking, like he's the type of guy I want to work with going forward. If he's if he does falter and if he does struggle to a point where it's like, you're not being consistent or you're not being 100% between the pipes when we need you to be, then it's like, okay, you know what? Like Anthony Stolarz definitely has a starting job and Joseph Wall can play backup in that situation. But until that time comes, it's like, I'd still say it's Joseph Wall's crease to lose at this point.
I think this is a good problem to have. It's been a
Mm-hmm.
long time since we've had this good ass problem. It's starting to give me Swayman and Elmark vibes, where
Mm-hmm.
like you said, the 1 and 1A tandem. Where if one falters or needs a night off, like you're still getting a solid goalie in Wall or Stoller, so it doesn't really matter which one's which. I think right now though, based on play, easy thing. Based on play, I do think this more leans towards Stoller. There is still a little bit of, you know, for lack of a better term, weakness in Wall's game, but like he is showing signs of, like bouncing back and playing a stronger game. So and plus like he's still coming off the injury too, right? So he's got to work himself really good back into actual game shape per se. But I think they're both doing fantastic. It's a great problem to have. But yeah, I think the answer to my question for myself is Stoller.
Mm. Well, I mean, it's two against one in this situation, so I mean, shit. But again, you are right. It is a good problem to have. It is a genuinely good problem to have. We'll keep an eye on things here in regards to how the Leafs them are doing, obviously, and of course we'll update you when we can on that. But we're going to switch gears really, really quickly here, and we're going to head to the PWHL, and we're going to talk about the takeover tour that's going to be happening as of January. We've actually found out that there is one more city that is being added to the list for the PWHL takeover tour. Now, of course, the Toronto Scepters will get the chance to actually right a wrong and potentially get themselves back into the PW playoffs and not choke in typical Toronto fashion. But of course, with say Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa being the only Canadian teams in the actual league, of course, with the takeover tour, this is a great sign for expansion. And what better city to be added to that list of both Quebec City and Vancouver than the city of Edmonton, Alberta? And I'm probably sure Avery's kind of licking his chops on this one. It has been officially announced that Edmonton is the last city that is actually being added to the PWHL Takeover Tour. And I'm going to let Avery take this one over for a little bit here because I know he's jumping at the bit to actually talk about this.
Yes, no, I'm very glad. And yo, this man in the intro said surprising. Yo, sell yourself down, Dave. What's so surprised about Edmonton being added to the takeover tour? This guy.
No, no,
Anyways,
no, no.
but
I'm not saying it in a negative connotation because it's like, listen, okay, like I already know y'all really care about your beef and everything, and all y'all care about like medium rare steaks, except for yourself, who like something like shoe leather. But anyways,
oh, yeah, this guy here. So yes, as I was saying, yes, Ottawa and Toronto, they're gonna be playing on February 16th at Rogers Place, and it's already sold out. The tickets are going. Tickets are going hard for this game, and you got Edmontonian area content that's gonna be on the ice playing. You have Emirates Mashmar, Ottawa goaltender. You also got Danielle Serdachny, Edmontonian, playing for Ottawa. You got a lot of connections to the city. Of course, Toronto, Sarah Nurse, the cousin of Darnell Nurse. So you got another back-to-back years. Edmonton is getting the Nurse invasion once again. Last year we had Kia playing with the LA Sparks for the WNBA game last year. Now you're getting Sarah and the Toronto Scepters coming back to the House of Darnell. So it's Nursapalooza in Edmonton once again come this February.
here's my question for you, Avery: have you bought a ticket yet?
I'll be covering that game.
Oh, even better.
Yes.
Troy, considering you're a fan of the Toronto Scepters, what do we think of this?
I think it's a great look. I mean, the more eyes in different markets you can get it on, the better. I mean, I and so I think it's only a matter of time until they expand out west. So I mean, like, why couldn't it be now so that way they can get a look? I mean, if there's clearly there's a market for it, so that getting sold out real quick. So I mean, like, that's definitely something that should be considered. And like Avery said, you can't go wrong when you have a nurse in the state.
Mm-hmm. No, it's completely understandable. I mean, Avery, we did talk about this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? Where it was like, there needs to be a little more Western flavor in regards to things. Like
Yeah.
this ideally just brings up a whole, I guess, full circle moment to our conversation, where it's like, obviously, if you're going to potentially look at a European tour, you need to look at other bigger markets. Like, for example, a rabid hockey city in Edmonton, Alberta. You have Los Angeles, California, which needs to be a destination. Dallas, Texas, Miami, Florida, Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon. Um, like even a Salt Lake City, Utah, because like obviously the Utah Hockey Club is currently playing in their inaugural season, and what better way to ramp up, I guess, more interest in hockey than having a women's hockey team out there?
No, totally. And the big thing is for now, of course, I would love for there to be a proper PWHL Western Conference or Western Division made up
Mhm.
of 4 to 5 teams, whatever. I think the big thing is that before we get actual Western expansion, one thing I want to see ensured is more private travel because it's going to be tough for a league to
Mhm.
pull off, say, a team in Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, wherever in Western time zones if they're flying commercial or if they're not all flying on chartered planes. So I think that's gonna be a really big thing is that the league's gonna have to guarantee as much charter travel as possible before we get mass Western expansion because I don't want these teams going on a road trip from say a Toronto to a Calgary and Edmonton and they're all flying commercial.
Yeah, I know the WNBA had to deal with that for a number of years, and like they're still dealing with it right now, where it's like, oh, like some of our teams can't even get their own plane or can't even fly first class. It's like you have to like literally sit on a commercial flight. And it's just it's tough because it's like you're already coming from a game, and it's like you're exhausted. You want to go over team strategy. You want to just bond with your teammates and just relax. And instead, you're sitting next to a fat guy in the bath who basically has to go to the bathroom every 20 minutes. That was a joke, and I guess that really didn't hit very well. But just,
But
No, I get it. Sorry. I'm on mute. There's lots of stuff going on in the background.
this.
wow, it's like
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, like you don't want to like you play hard, whatever, and you you want to relax comfortably onto your next stop.
Hmm.
You don't necessarily want to be stuck next to somebody uncomfortable or unpleasant, or even get stuck sitting next to the bathroom.
Exactly. I mean, again, if this were the 80s and you had Heavy D on the same flight as a women's hockey team, you know, just the lines about that would be just fucking epic. You know what I mean?
Wait, what? Oh, what did Harry do to do anything here? What?
No, no, like hold on, listen to me first. Listen to me for a second, okay? Like you got someone famous on the plane, and then you got a women's hockey team right then and there, right? Like obviously, like say if women's hockey and hip hop kind of just meshed in together, really, really nicely, just saying. That's all I'm saying.
All right, all right, man. All right.
Listen, I'm not crazy when I say what I mean.
That was random as hell.
Of course, it's random as hell. That's the point. Bumbleclot, man. Like, yo, y'all know me for 5 years and already you don't know that I have these fucking random thoughts. Like,
No, we know. No, we know. No, we know your brain, how your mind works. We know that.
fucking planter's head ass. Anyways. Sorry, I turned up the volume on my blackness a little too hard, and I guess I need to turn it down a little bit on this episode, but it is what it is. Let's switch gears real quick. Heading to St. Louis now, where Drew Bannister is actually out of a job after only 22 games, and guess who's taking his place? Former Bruins coach Jim Montgomery. Yes, you heard that correctly. Jim Montgomery, of course, got fired by the Bruins, like, what, not even Friday? And this man has a job on Sunday? How does that make any sense?
Yeah.
How does that make any sense? Avery, I'm going to let you jump in on this one.
So it sounds like the Blues, from what it sounds like and what Doug Armstrong said, pretty much is that, to paraphrase, the Blues saw Montgomery's out of work. So they said, you know what? Hey, we're struggling. Let's go in and get this guy as soon as possible before anybody else snags him. And the Blues themselves have had a very so-so start in Western Conference. But to dump Drew Bannister after 22 games, one of the shortest tenures ever of a permanent head coach in his first year, after 22 games, to know he's not your guy, that's gotta suck if you're Drew Bannister to get that short of a leash.
No, that genuinely sucks because it's like, how are you going to go into, like, say, not even a quarter of your first job as a coach in any of the big four, and you basically get fired? Like, it's like, how do you get fired on your day off in that situation? How do you get fired?
Like that taco didn't even make it to training camp.
Yeah, like. I don't know. To me, that sounds like something was amiss in that whole situation, and I'm going to be completely honest. I'm going to be completely upfront about that because it's like you go from, like, say, new rookie hire to essentially grabbing a coach that basically lost his job with, like, one of the best teams in the league. But it's like you really have to ask yourself why jump on that so rapidly, to the point where it's like, it basically it makes Drew Bannister look like he wasn't really that good at his job in the first place. That really does raise some eyebrows, and it does ask a lot of questions in that situation.
I feel like they weren't really sold on him in the first place. It was probably one of those, this is the best we have, but as soon as something becomes available, like, it gives off like Milwaukee Bucks vibes when they fired Adrian Griffith for Doc Rivers.
That was stupid, though.
Yeah,
that was genuinely stupid.
But yeah, like, in this situation, it feels like there was literally no faith, and they were just waiting for him to falter before they said, "Okay, fine, here's your pink slip."
But then, why hire him in the first place? That's kind of where my mind is boggled a little bit here. It's like, why hire him in the first place if you knew he was gonna fail to begin with?
Yeah, like, you're just wasting everybody's time. and you're wasting money at that point too, because like you're still gonna have to pay him.
Yep.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was Drew's contract worth?
I don't know. I don't know if the terms of that were ever released, but I mean, I'd like to imagine they still owe him a good chunk of money.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
like at
And
least a good 1.2 by
yeah.
the sounds of it.
And also, he also had some pretty bad luck. He had he had quite a few injuries early in the season. You lose Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway for injury within the first quarter of your season. Things don't go well in the Central. I mean, you're 9-12-1. I mean, yes, you're sub 500, but it's still early-ish. Things could turn around. But yeah, to understand Jim Montgomery, understand what he's done for the Boston Bruins. You know what? I understand. Yes, bringing in Jim Montgomery you understand he's a great coach. Like I don't blame too much of what's gone on in Boston on him because you've had a lot of turnover and change when it comes to trades, retirements, etc., etc. But for the Blues to give him not even 30 games to turn things around, that is genuinely shocking.
No, I fully agree. Again, in that particular situation, it's like what's going on in St. Louis? That really raises a lot of eyebrows, like especially for non-hockey fans, because it's just like, didn't y'all just hire somebody a hot second ago? It's like, why are you hiring this motherfucker now? It's like, oh well, he's been somebody we've been looking at for a long time. It's just like now that he's available, it's like we just had to grab him. It's like, no, like give the other dude a chance. Like there doesn't really need to be like a rotating carousel of like Boston Bruins coaches that basically get a job within like not even a week or two. Like I feel like this is the shortest amount of time a Boston coach has gotten fired and literally found a new job within like a couple days, and
Yeah.
that's just eye opening to me.
Oh, it is. And I've got a list here of the shortest runs ever for full-time head coaches, and Drew Bannister's tenure is the fourth shortest of any non-interim coach in league history.
Who are the other three?
Other three were Ron Rolston, 2013, got 20 games of Buffalo. Barry Melrose in his very random return to coaching in 2008 with Tampa Bay. He got 16 games, and I would put asterisk on this one because technically he was a coach, but he coached no games. Mike Babcock last year coaching 0 games before being terminated.
And we all know how that Mike Babcock situation actually turned out in Columbus. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I mean,
No.
you gotta be a stupid motherfucker to get fired on your day off. I don't know, man. Like again, my thing is this: it's like you have a whole whackload of other coaches in the NHL, and yet still you go with the one from Boston. Literally, the one from Boston. Like, how many more coaches from Boston do you actually need to find a job? Because it's like, what if, heaven forbid, if Craig Berube literally loses his job, then it's like, okay, are we literally gonna grab another coach from Boston? Like, say, not even 2 days later. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yo, Claude Julien, come on down.
Listen, the day Claude Julien actually becomes Leafs head coach is the day I stop watching.
Wow. What Claude Julien do to you? You earned this, Troy? Yo, this man got beef. Yo, I don't know what's going on here, folks, but there's some long-standing beef, I guess, between Dave and Claude Julien some way, somehow.
No, it's not even him. It's just it's like, yo, how many more Boston coaches need a job in the NHL at that rate? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're right. It is funny that it's always the Boston guys who are looking for work and getting that next job again. Like again, we saw Bruce Cassidy now is thriving once again in Vegas, but it is funny. It is strange that that is immediately the guy they wanted to get and they knew they're gonna get him. But yeah, I really don't think what's going on in Boston, like you said, has been Jim Montgomery's fault. You can't control the retirements. You can't, to an extent, it's out of his hands really when it came to the Swayman situation. That was on Cam Neely and Don Sweeney. That wasn't on him when that happened. And also to Allmark as well too. That whole thing with both goaltenders. Allmark goes to Ottawa. So yeah, that's tough. And again, when you struggle again at the start of the season, you know, teams look for a scapegoat. Boston isn't going to fire Cam Neely. Boston isn't going to fire Don Sweeney. The easiest solution for them is dumping the head coach, as we all know.
I will say this. Personally speaking, Toronto, or sorry, let me rephrase that. Personally speaking, Boston does not need to fire their coach again. If they do within, like, say, the next year, it's just like basically like the equivalent of like changing your underwear, like changing your underwear, basically going back to the same pair all over again in a head coach. And it's just like, find somebody different at this point. If Bruce Boudreau gets a job with Boston, then that's fucked up. If what's another coach out there that actually still needs a job right now?
Not in the NHL right now, but someone who I think needs an NHL job. David Carl. David Carl is coaching at U of Denver. He's someone who that's the name that I've said before on this show. I believe that David Carl is someone that I think needs an NHL job pronto.
Jason Payne also needs an NHL job pronto. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Jason Payne's still doing his thing down in Cincinnati. So, and he's a name that Greg Wyshynski. Greg Wyshynski mentioned him beforehand as a possible dark horse for NHL job in the next few years here.
Like, we could actually see another African American head coach in the NHL again, and like not just for like maybe half a season or a quarter of a season or even like 10 games. Like,
I mean, and a guy who's currently behind the bench in the NHL. We mentioned Vegas already. Joel Ward. Joel Ward still doing his thing as on the Golden Knights bench right now. So you can't tell me he's not someone who teams are looking at as a future head coach right now in the NHL.
did Joel end up getting a ring with Vegas back in 23?
He was still Henderson, so I don't think so.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was still yeah, the minor league guys don't get it, but yeah, he was still working with Henderson back then. So
Interesting enough debate. Again, I'm not a big fan of Boston or the Bruins for that matter, but like, you know what? Like, it is what it is at this point. All right. Couple small things before we end off the episode. First, Ovechkin went down on Friday with an injury. He was leading the league in goals at 15, and he managed to get himself injured during a game against Utah Friday night. He's now out for 4 to 6 weeks. Does this affect his chances of hitting Gretzky's all-time goal scoring record?
Maybe this year. All depends how he responds from the broken leg when he comes back. But if he can get back up to speed to score another 26, 27 goals, there's a chance. But again, this is really his first major injury in his career, which is shocking in itself. It's surprising that he's gone until 39 years old. He's relatively healthy. He's been healthy for most of his career. The fact that he's taking this long for a major injury is surprising. Goes to show how he's played. But yeah, I think it really depends and sees how his game rounds back up again in a few weeks here in the second half of the season. So is there a chance? Certainly. Is it a great chance? I don't know. I got to see how he responds after being off the ice for that long. But I'm not gonna say never. I'm not gonna say no. But now this injury, it's probably more likely it happens early next year than this year. But hey, it's Alex Ovechkin. He might come back like nothing ever happened, because Capitals reporter Tarek El-Bashir, he tweeted out, I think it was yesterday or the day before, at the time of this taping, that he saw Ovi walking around the practice rink with no walking boot, no crutches.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting. Troy, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm inclined to agree with Avery. I don't. When he comes back this year, I mean, I think I think the number is 41 to beat the record. Like is what he
No,
needed is, or
no,
like that's what the
he's less than that. He's sub 30 now. He's in the 26, 27 goal range. Like he's less than 30 now.
okay. So while it is entirely possible, I think
Yeah.
this injury kind of changes his game a little bit
Hmm.
for the rest of the season. Because I mean, like I'm sure he's going to start feeling the effects of it. You know, like and for him to be not using crutches or in a walking boot or anything. I mean, it makes you wonder how. Not the question like the doctors or nothing because like but like maybe it's just how the media reports it that like maybe it's not as serious as it sounds, but because it's Ovechkin and he's a name, it automatically sounds serious because of the taste.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I definitely think with the time off, he's going to score some goals here and there, but I don't think he's going to continue at the same pace he was going at before the injury. I agree with Avery. I think it happens. I think it happens early next year, for sure.
Hmm. Well, let's see how this goes. If Ovechkin can actually manage to find a way to come back before New Year's, that'd be completely crazy. And if not, then give him some time to rest, and he'll come back when he comes back. So
What's also crazy is Crosby and Ovechkin are the two only active players with 600 plus goals. That's
yeah,
nuts.
Yes. It's wild.
absolutely wild.
Like, do you remember what was it? It was a playoff game where they both had hat tricks in the same game. Like that was incredible to watch. Like that was some fucking good ass hockey. I miss those days.
I don't know if you're ever gonna see that
They just
again.
go at it as a fucking goalie's nightmare. Both ends of the ring.
No, I'm inclined to agree. As a former street hockey goaltender, where it's like, hey, like, oh, this guy had a hat trick, and then my player had a hat trick, and everything was spidered in between. I'd lose my shit at that point. In any event, though, we wish Ovi a speedy recovery. Not too speedy, but at least somewhat speedy. And he takes his time to like rehab the broken leg and everything, and not rush himself back onto the ice because I know for a fact he probably will. But at the same point in time, like, dog, we need you to chill. All right. Last but not least, we have a new Nylander on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Matthew Nice is currently on the injured reserve list right now, and as it stands, Toronto has had to call up a new player. Signed him to a 1 year, $750,000 deal, and happens to be related to Leafs right winger or Leaf winger and centerman William Nylander. We're talking about Alexander Nylander, who has managed to find himself called up to the show, and you know what? I couldn't be much happier for him. Avery, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, it's a great story to see Alex back in the NHL and with his brother playing in Toronto. Alex is someone who's tried to find his way in the NHL. He's bounced up and down between the NHL and the AHL. He's not really found his place yet in the league, so hopefully he can try and do that playing in Toronto now. I know he's played before with Pittsburgh. He's played with Columbus, Buffalo, bounce around the AHL with Wilkes-Barre, and Rochester. So we'll see how he works out because there is talent there. Plays left wing. There is talent there. He's shown he can play this level before. He's had a knack. He's got a knack for the net. He has right now 15 points in 23 games this season. That was with Columbus, but there's talent there. He's shown he can play. He's got a season before of 26 points in 65 games with Chicago. So the skill is there. It's a matter of just putting it together for him consistently, in my mind.
Troy, what are your thoughts on this? Unless he's upstairs with you.
Sorry, what was the question?
So, How do we feel about the Alexander Nylander signing with the Leafs, considering Nylander has been a bit of a journeyman compared to his brother?
I think it's a good signing. From what we've seen, or at least from what I've seen watching his debut against the Utah Hockey Club, it seems like he's found himself a nice little place. Maybe he steals a spot from Nick Robertson, even though Robertson needs some ice time. Because as Avery said earlier in the show, like this on again, off again, it isn't good for his his career and his trajectory. But the
Mm-hmm.
Nylander signing is good. He has put up points with the Marlies. The only downside is if you have to send him back down, he's got to clear waivers, and there's a chance that somebody's going to take him, and then this all is for nothing, right? So
Exactly.
he's got to play. Like he's got to hope that he plays, I guess, long enough to the point where he. I don't know if he has to, if it's all season where he has to clear waivers, or if it's up to a certain point
Mm-hmm.
where he wouldn't have to. But I think for the Leafs' sake, it probably helps. Like if they don't want him in the lineup, it probably helps just make him a healthy scratch instead of trying to send him back down. Just so you don't lose another body with all these people still hurt.
Agreed. Fully agreed. All right. Guys, what do you think about tonight's episode, though? Let us know in our comments on both Twitter and Blue Sky, and start interacting with us so that we can, maybe add some more questions to the show, maybe have a little bit of a debate and everything, or maybe we can end up on an episode of Face Off. You never know. Like somebody could tweet some bullshit and from our Twitter account, and next thing you know, it's like we end up on season 2 of Amazon's Face Off. So help us get on there real quick. As you can tell, I'm still a little sick right now, but it is what it is.
Buckley, tastes awful, but it works.
Yo, Buckley's is not fixing this walking pneumonia that's currently circulating right now, man. Like it's absolutely crazy. Like,
Okay, fine. Tell your mom and stuff to do.
yo, that's what Vicks is for, my guy. Anyways, folks. Anyways, would like to say Vicks and ginger ale. That'll help clear up any type of cold, especially for black people. We all know how this goes, but. Ideally, I want to say thank you for letting us grace the space in between your head top. Avery, Troy, thank you very much for coming through. You can follow us on the socials at Toronto Third, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And you can get us where you normally get your podcasts. That's Google, Apple, Spotify, and of course our friends at Podbean, as well as iHeartRadio. All right, so we're gonna cut this episode off, and we'll be back next week. Until next time, deuces, and make sure you drink your water.
And mind your business.